Okay. We should be good.
Kayla, I asked you to unmute. Let me know if that works. Oh, perfect.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the May 16th Public Design Commission meeting. If you are watching this meeting via YouTube right now, you can find a link to the agenda, which has the committee meeting presentations in the video description. So that's the description below the video. Okay, Signe, I think we can start.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Signe Nielsen. I'm president of the Public Design Commission. We will now begin the meeting with a roll call to confirm commissioner attendance. When I call your name, if you would please say here. Phil Ahrens.
Here.
Ken Seth Armstead. I know you're here. Deborah Martin.
Here.
Karen Keel.
Here.
Susan Morgenthau.
Here.
Ethel Sheffer.
Here.
Merrill Tisch.
Here.
Mary Valverde. I didn't see her.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ken Seth.
Sorry, Mary couldn't come.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, Lori, you're not. Sorry.
Oh, you know what? I was going to be off today, but I was able to get on. The thing got canceled. So
Great.
All
Okay.
right.
We have a quorum. So we will now commence with the committee. We'll commence with the committee meeting. We will not be hearing public testimony or voting on these projects today. The first project on the agenda is the installation of an interim sally port and bail payment center at 100 Center Street in Manhattan. Grace will let the presenters know when to begin. Thank you.
Kayla. Okay, Kayla should be ready to go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Grace. Good morning, commissioners. I'm Metcalf, Director of Project Excellence at DDC. We are here today to provide a brief presentation in response to specific concerns that were expressed during last month's presentation of the interim Sally Port proposal for the New York County Courthouse. We will begin with an overview of the project site and interim Sally Port proposal. And then we'll address three concerns related to the dismantle project at the Manhattan Detention Complex and the need for the interim Sally Port at the proposed location, details on the interim Sally Port windows and how the temporary artwork would be applied to the facade, and engagement with the community on this project. The New York County Criminal Courthouse is located in Lower Manhattan. The courthouse is within the Civic Center area and is located on Center Street between Hogan Place and White Street. This is a view looking north from the corner of Center Street and Hogan Place. The courthouse is immediately south of the Manhattan Detention Complex to be dismantled. The existing Sally Port is shown in the area marked with a dashed blue line and is part of the Manhattan Detention Complex site. You can see it here. This is an existing site plan showing both the courthouse and the Manhattan Detention Complex. This is the proposed site plan showing the existing Sally Port to be dismantled, which is in this area here. And it's also showing the area of the new Sally Port along Center Street here. This is a view of the existing Sally Port sidewalk and curb cut, which have been used by DOC since 1940. A Sally Port is a secured, controlled entryway into a secure facility. The Sally Port allows DOC and NYPD to safely transport people in custody to and from their court dates and must be operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This site diagram shows the location of the existing sally port between the detention facility and the courthouse and its relationship to the two buildings. The existing sally port is located directly on top of the cellar and subcellar levels of the detention facility. These cellar levels extend more than 15 feet below grade and will be dismantled along with the upper levels of the detention facility. The cellar plan shows that the existing sally port area above is not structurally separated from the rest of the detention facility's slab, walls, and foundation. DDC has determined that keeping the existing sally port operational during the dismantle work is a safety issue that is not negotiable. The existing sally port is within the dismantle zone of influence for the MDC South Tower and directly below the bridges connecting the MDC South Tower to the courthouse at the 3rd and 13th floors, both of which are being dismantled. There will be scaffolding on the south facade of the MDC South Tower around and under the two bridges immediately above the existing sally port. You can see this is the area of the existing sally port in here. Further, the area will be utilized to move materials off-site. Dismantle operations of this scale with high-rise towers plus two bridges on a tight site is extremely challenging and requires scaffolding and barriers to protect all who work on and around the site, as well as protect the adjacent structures. Moving the sally port away from the dismantle work area, as recommended by the dismantle engineer, is the safest approach, while ensuring that critical DOC and NYPD operations can continue uninterrupted and persons in custody can make their court appearance without undue delay. The placement of the interim sally port on Center Street allows people in custody and staff to safely move into the courthouse in the most direct route. Next, I will address the artwork on the west facade of the interim sally port and how this application will be coordinated with the structure's windows. The temporary application of artwork and the interim sally port windows have been coordinated. This rendering shows the interim sally port facade with the square window cutouts and the artwork around them. The windows have been sized to coordinate with the metal panels and the artwork. The windows will include gray tinted glazing, and the artwork will be printed on aluminum decals that will be applied to the metal panels. Once the decals have been fully adhered to the metal panel substrate, the installer will carefully and neatly cut out the window openings so that they are aligned with the window, so that the openings of the artwork are aligned with the window beyond. The translucent windows and aluminum decal for artwork have been added to the materials for the project. Next, Lauren Misser, a member of our BBJ communications team from our project management consultant, AECom Hill Joint Venture, will provide an overview of community engagement for the project.
Morning, everyone. I'm Lauren Messier, Outreach Manager for the New York City Board of Sales Program. I'm going to provide an overview of community engagement activities for the Manhattan Project. This slide on the screen shows community engagement that we have completed since the dismantle design builder, Gramercy, was awarded the project and given a notice to proceed in December. In the last 5 months, the project team has presented to Manhattan Community Board 1 7 times. These presentations have covered various aspects of the project, including the design and placement of the interim sally port, the removal of existing artworks from the MDC site, and upcoming site work, mitigation measures, and any potential impacts on the community. In the time since the interim sally port proposal was presented to the Commission at last month's meeting, we have returned to Manhattan Community Board 1's Land Use Committee for a 3rd time to present the updated sally port design per PDC's request. We also requested any design feedback in writing via email. No new design issues have been raised by Manhattan Community Board 1, and the primary opinions expressed continue to be opposition to the dismantle project happening at all, which is outside of PDC purview. We did hear some positive feedback on the addition of the artworks to the design, which were incorporated at the request of CB1. And a few people acknowledged that the artwork is an improvement to the Sallyport design, even though the committee does remain unanimously opposed to the dismantle project as a whole. While the project team is unable to change the project scope, we do acknowledge that it is a burden on the local community, and we are committed to reducing the negative impacts of construction work, providing timely updates, and minimizing disruptions for people around the project site to the extent possible. Next slide, please. Okay, this slide shows earlier community engagement activities that took place during the planning phase of the project from February of 2020 through September of 2021. This outreach included 4 workshops, 3 presentations to Manhattan Community Board 1, and 3 neighborhood advisory committee meetings. We do plan to resume quarterly neighborhood advisory committee meetings soon, and we will continue to engage with Manhattan Community Board 1 and other stakeholders throughout the dismantle, design, and construction process. We also have a community construction liaison with a local office set up to directly engage with neighborhood residents and businesses. That concludes our presentation today. Thank you very much.
Sorry, thank you very much. Commissioners, do you have any questions? Remember, we're not voting, but this is an opportunity to make sure that we fully understand what is being proposed, and if we have any points that we would like to make.
I know we're not voting on it today, but I appreciate the detail on the subfloor and the basement beneath where the old Sallyport is, because it makes it clear you can't excavate there and transport people safely in and out. I just don't believe that that's possible. I think that's really the key issue. I know there are people who are opposed to it, but if we have a functioning court there and we need to have people come in and out via the busload, it just seems like we have to have an alternative Sallyport, period. I don't know that there's anything else to vote on other than we kind of have to approve this for the sake of safety. I don't know how anybody else feels about this, but it's very clear from the planning, and they've strategically placed it so that it's even more clear than the original plans where it was just a detail item.
I agree with what you just said, Kenseth, and I'm just only curious about why the last community engagement meeting was last September. On your calendar.
DDC, I don't think that's accurate, is it?
Neighborhood
DDC?
Committee, I'm sorry. The Neighborhood Advisory Committee is listed as September
Okay.
21. Do you plan them one more time?
Could Lauren respond to that, or Jeff Margulies from DDC,
Sure.
please?
We are working to reconvene the Neighborhood Advisory Committee. It was temporarily disbanded while the new administration took over. And so we are working with the current administration to confirm the membership and restart that as soon as possible. We do expect the next meeting to be held this summer.
Yes, that is a good point. Are there any further comments by any commissioners with regard to the artwork, the way it is being positioned, placed, materiality, and such on the facade?
I mean, I guess, am I echoing? No, it's okay. I guess I just wanted to say thank you for sharing the updated information. And, you know, I think the process here was, I'm just going to use the word unfortunate, because I think that having to put both design and then the artwork in a kind of just like response because the public is asking for it. The committee, I think that the city should be taking more of a, let's say, a upfront and even aggressive stance on, you know, what something like this is like in a community. I understand it has to be there. I understand Kent's remarks as well, and that, you know, we can't run this in another location, but it's a temporary building, but we know temporary buildings stay there for a long time. I'd be surprised if 5 years was the only amount of time. So I just, and it costs a lot of money, and it's all of our money. So I just would like that there to be more care than it to just look like a bunker in the future. I understand security reasons. I understand security projects. I've run some myself. So that's just looking for, you know, trying to think about the public space and the quality of life of people, both outside and inside, people working there.
So
So that's
More-
a very general comment, I know, but I think
for the
because we're-
future,
for the future, because
Okay.
this is a done deal.
Yeah,
understand.
I
And
know,
I'm just, you know, I have a lot of laments here, so I just couldn't sit and.
I do want to sort of touch base on the temporary aspect of it. So per the city charter, the Public Design Commission does review and approve installations and artworks that are intended to be temporary yet installed for more than a year. And the charter states that we can approve those for 3 years with the option for them to be the approval to be extended. So, you know, we can set a time frame. You know, I know these are all on an expedited schedule, and you know, sort of an understanding that this will be demolished by a certain time. You know, and that'll be kind of, you know, when there's a certificate of an approval for this, it would be outlined in that.
Ken Seth just raised his hand.
As the only artist commissioner who's present, I'd just like to say that this is in terms of the display of the artwork on the interim Sally Port, it is okay. And I would like to second Lori in that it is just okay. And that it would be great had that integration happened earlier, and that the art was a part of the original concept, and that, but, you know, I also understand that, you know, given what this has been, it seems like there's been a bit of war and a bit of tug of war, just getting it out. And that's unfortunate. But speaking to the aesthetics of it and how the artwork is applied to the temporary barrier, whether or not we approve it for 3 years, it is okay. It is not great, but I really think that's all we can say. And I support Lori entirely that, like, I wish this could have been done better. And I wish that there was some way that the local community could have been more aware of the fact that, you know, obviously if there's going to be a change made to the facade, that this, the crux of this is the safety issue in the excavation. That had been set up front, a lot of the conversation around it would have been curtailed, because this has to be done. It isn't, anyways, I don't even have the words anymore, but thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners? If not, your input will be conveyed to the applicant, and thank you. So we are going to move on to the next project, which is the construction of a residential building and adjacent site work at 126th Street and Roosevelt Avenue in Willits Point, Queens. Grace will let the presenters know when to begin. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna give control to Esther, and then Frank and John will present.
Okay.
Okay, Esther, I've given you handed over control. It took me a while to find your name.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. This is Frank Monterisi. I'm a executive vice president at the Related Companies, which is a 50-50 partner with Sterling Equities. Our joint venture is known as the Queens Development Group. And we were designated to be the developer of the Willits Point District roughly 10 years ago. We're very excited to be here after a long decade of pushing this process and this project along, working in partnership with our great partners at EDC. We are endeavoring to begin the construction of phase 1A, which you'll see, which our architects at S9 are going to present the project, the first phase. I think we last came to you about 6 months ago or so, the end of last year, and talking about the plaza that's in front of the buildings. But this is for the first presentation for the buildings themselves. It'll be 1,100 units of affordable housing, all financed through HPD and HDC. 880 units of mix and match or affordability from everywhere from 40% of area median income up to 120% of area median income, and then 220 units of senior housing through the SARA program. This project is one that we're extremely proud of, and as I said, we've been working on it for a long time, and this is the first phase of the project in Willits, and we're really excited about it. It took us a long time to get here, and it took a lot of work by a lot of people over the past 10 years and even more, to be honest. Willits has been a project that's been on the that a lot of people have worked on for a very long time. So we're very excited to be here and looking forward to getting your input on the project. Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Clifford. I'm a principal at S9 Architecture, and I'm going to run you through the conceptual design submission for the 1,100 affordable units that are contained within 3 new buildings in the Willits Point Special District. So the site is located in the Willits Point Special District in the north part of Queens along the Flushing River. And we are stage 1A in the bottom left-hand corner of the Willits Point Special District. So it's fully accessible to both the number 7 train and the Long Island Railroad stop there. The site right now has gone through remediation from its former use, which was a bunch of scrap yards and car repair yards.
John, can I just interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
And just to highlight in the previous image, if you can go back one, in the past 9-10 months since last summer, our team acting as the developer, but in coordination with our partners at the city, we've remediated this whole site. And we removed 93,000 tons of contaminated soil from the site in the past 10 months. So it's we're going through the final stages of the last bit of paperwork with the state. This cleanup was done in conjunction. The brownfield cleanup program was with oversight from New York State DEC. Having grown up in and around this site, I can tell you it looks a lot different now than it did a year ago.
Okay. So the site we found was one of the most unique sites that we've ever worked on, certainly in New York City, and that it's a very large piece of land, fully accessible by highways and public transportation, but never really been developed. It's probably most famous as being the ash heaps in The Great Gatsby, when it was cinder ashes filling in the Flushing River marshes. And then the 2 World's Fairs that Robert Moses mounted kind of surrounded this, but it stayed undeveloped. And then around 1940, it started its evolution as what was known as the Iron Triangle, which were car repair shops and chop shops and scrap yards. There was a ULURP master plan for the entire Willits Point district taken on by the City of New York, by the Department of City Planning, and the start of private development, the cleanup that Frank just mentioned started around 2018, and now we're at the start of the phase 1 development. So here are some historic pictures of the site showing its iteration from salt marsh to the ash heaps, and then finally the Iron Triangle around with the World's Fair. This is what it most recently looked like, and parts of the areas that have not been remediated do still look like this, sites to the north and to the east. Here it is in the overall context of the zoning map. The survey for phase 1A that we're talking about, which is the trapezoidal piece with a leg that goes out for access to 126th Street, Seaver Way. And the site is entirely in the flood zone. The entire Willits Point district is going to be raised up above the flood zone. So this will be a fully resilient neighborhood. Now we're in the special district. This is the corner. So you can see our site at the bottom left-hand corner there, the 3 buildings highlighted in pink. And they're massing. So it's 3 buildings. It looks like 2 here, but we'll go through where the 0 lot line is. 12 stories tall with 1,100 affordable residential units. And then also in that pink area is the public realm that will be constructed as part of this first phase. You've already reviewed that conceptual design with Rick Parisi about 6 months ago. This shows the massing between the 3 buildings. So at the front, what we're considering the front corner on the west side is a public plaza with a pedestrian mall that goes along what's called Willits Point Boulevard. We've got the first building, which is the donut building right there where Esther is using the cursor. It's connected to the second affordable building to page north, and then the Sarah building for the affordable senior housing is at the end. It's a ground floor and open space kind of plan showing what you had already approved as part of the stage 1 public realm for Willits Point Boulevard and the entry plaza. And then our building surrounds 3 courtyards, 2 inner courtyards that are fully landscaped, and one that's a porte cochere, more of a European courtyard for drop off and access, because we don't really have any street frontage for the 2 affordable housing buildings other than off Eastern Perimeter Street. So now for the design concept for the buildings themselves. I mean, one of the things about this is Willits Point historically it's been totally underdeveloped and kind of isolated by the highway system around it. It's probably one of the most visible but least developed pieces of real estate in New York City. And so in looking at this, the first building will act as the precedent for all the future development within the new neighborhood. So we really wanted to emphasize technology and design that was both sustainable and resilient, really create a new community, not look at this as buildings, but the beginning of a new neighborhood, and reimagine how affordable design can transform and build this neighborhood, especially with the affordable homes for people in a much more rapid way. So in the concept phase, which is where we are now, we're looking at different types of technology for both sustainable and resilient design. We're looking at green roofs, potentially some community gardens on the roof, solar and photovoltaic uses, geothermal heating and cooling as a potential way to power this neighborhood. So we're in the concept phase for that. And then what we really wanted to do is think about this as creating a community. It is isolated by its physical barriers, but still drawing on Queens itself, which is probably the richest tapestry of neighborhoods in the United States, and how we can create a new neighborhood for Queens that's just as iconic as Corona, Flushing, Forest Hills, and Jackson Heights and others. So looking at what makes a Queens neighborhood, and it is the variety and diversity on the streetscape. So taking these buildings and breaking them down in a more familiar context for Queens neighborhoods. So having ups and downs along the street wall, breaking that up with different kinds of materials. And then thinking about how to really celebrate this approach at the public realm, and the number 7 train that creates this movement going east and west past that public plaza and entry park. So having a more organic expression that spills onto that facade and relates to both the public realm, public plaza, as well as the number 7 trains movement going east and west. And we also want to, as part of building this community, celebrate its art and celebrate the diversity of the community. So we're looking at how that can be incorporated into potentially the courtyards or the lobbies or some of the more public areas of the buildings themselves, and potentially going back and looking at how it can go into the public realm of the plaza and the pedestrian way on Willits Point Boulevard. And so what we came up with was a way to effectively create a kind of dynamic movement along the facade that creates this kind of organic spill that I talked about, where there's a gradation in the primarily masonry wall facade and transitioning it more toward a more metal wall facade by diminishing the brick widths as we go across the bays here. So this is just a more of a technical drawing of how this is accomplished, and then you'll see in the rendering how this affects the facade. So here you can see it's kind of an aerial drones view looking toward the east. So the public plaza, as you get off the number 7 train, is in the foreground, and you can see on that facade, that front facade, that there's that spill of kind of a more organic dissolution of that facade. And as you go down Willits Point Boulevard, it starts taking on more of a traditional neighborhood vocabulary and context of a series of smaller buildings with varying height going down the pedestrian way of Willits Point Boulevard. This is the view from the train as you're coming from Manhattan toward Flushing. So you can see that expression on this prominent facade. We see this as kind of the gateway to the new neighborhood. And then just a ground plane showing where this is for the 3 buildings. So we have stage 1 at the bottom of the plan here. The first building is the donut building right there. Then there's a common lobby that is shared with the second building, which is more of a C-shape or reverse C-shape building. And then the final building is the Sarah building, 220 units of affordable senior housing. Circulation plan on the ground. It's a unique site in that, and this was part of the Willits Point Special District. Willits Point Boulevard cannot have vehicular access on it because there's a significant water main that goes underneath it. DEP, as part of the development of the Willits Point District, insisted that there would be no vehicular access over that. So this entry plaza and Willits Point Boulevard is 100% pedestrian. Connector Street and Service Street and Perimeter Street provides the vehicular access to this phase 1A. So we have a drop-off area for the senior housing up at the upper right corner off of Service Street right there, and drop off and pick up, whether it's Uber or taxi or whatever, comes through the Port Cochere courtyard off Eastern Perimeter, and that serves the 2 affordable buildings. All the pedestrian access can be directly from the number 7 and the Long Island Railroad through the Gateway Plaza and onto the pedestrianized Willits Point Boulevard. The ground floor plan, we have active retail fronting both the plaza and Willits Point Boulevard. And then we have our internal landscape courtyards. Those are surrounded by a mix of some ground floor units, but mostly amenities and lobbies. And then there's some community facility in both the first building and the third building. All of the required parking for the site is underground. The site is elevated, so it's not fully underground, but will be beneath the 3 buildings with access off of Perimeter Street at the bottom of the page. And then as we go up, typical floor plans showing the unit mix. The 2 affordable buildings are a mix of 0, 1s, 2s, and 3s, and the senior housing is a mix of 0s and 1s. And this just shows the floor plans as they go up with the various setbacks up to the 12th floor. On the roof, we're planning an amenity area for the affordable housing residents, and that might have access to some of the community gardens and other things that we talked about earlier that we're investigating. Elevations, this is the west elevation. The south elevation, which is really along the public plaza. East elevations. And the north elevation. And then in section, you can see the parking is below all of the buildings. The ground floor has amenities, retail, lobbies, and the community facility. And then there are 11 stories of residential above that with the roof amenity on top of that. Section in the other direction. So in this concept phase, what we're looking at is the buildings being primarily a variety of different brick masonry types. We're clearly going to have all of the windows are operable in these residential buildings, and then using architectural metal panel system to create the gradated window systems that I showed you earlier. This is a view coming from Manhattan toward Flushing. And in the other direction from Flushing toward Manhattan. So on the left, you see building 1 and then building 2 on the right with the lobby connecting them. You can see a little hint of the porte cochere off of Perimeter Street there. And then what is the procession for most people are probably going to be coming here by the number 7 train and the Long Island Railroad, but primarily number 7 train. So when you get off the platform with the number 7 train, this is the approach toward the entry plaza. As you get to the entry plaza, this is showing phase 1A with the temporary fence. This was presented to you by MPFP several months ago. You can see that relationship of the gradation to the landscape and to the plaza. And then looking at Willits Point Boulevard for just so you could see the whole elevation, we've removed the fence here, but this is how the trees will be planted in the initial phase. And then showing it with the temporary fence around the phase 2, I'm sorry, phase 1B site. The entry point to the 2 affordable buildings. So that's the lobby entry in the middle there. And again, with the temporary fence, because we're standing in phase 1B right now for this view. And then as you get home, this is conceptual for the lobby as you come in off Willits Point Boulevard, looking toward the porte cochere on the other side. So everybody has a front door experience in these buildings. They all come to the same place. The porte cochere from Perimeter Street looking in. So this would be looking out toward Willits Point Boulevard. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you, John. Good to see you, by the way.
Good to see you.
Commissioners, any questions or comments? This was a very thorough presentation and certainly complements the one that we saw by MPFP.
I have a question. And I'm trying to go back through the presentation to see exactly what the street name is, where the water main goes through. And that the DEP has said that no vehicular access can be granted on that street. But I'm a little concerned about the Sarah housing and any emergency vehicles. I live in a neighborhood with a lot of nursing homes and senior housing. And, you know, that's a really big issue, access for emergency vehicles. Are they going to have to go into the porte cochere and those residents are going to have to come down to that lobby if there's an emergency?
No, the senior housing, if you see in the upper right on the screen right here, that's the lobby to the Sarah housing. So it has direct access to Connector Street and Service Street.
Oh, I see.
The other buildings, emergency vehicles would go where it says resident drop off, but we've already tested that. So it's very easy for the emergency vehicles to get right up to the lobby door there.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
You're welcome.
So this must be a big challenge because there's this existing sewer and you're elevating the site, which means you're putting fill on top of the sewer.
It's actually more of a platform that we're building, not so much fill on the site because the fill creates other problems. All of this land is fill, so it would surcharge it more. So most of that's why we're putting our parking underneath the building instead of filling it. We're using that, not adding that structural load to the underlying soil.
I see. Oh, interesting.
And it's similar with the DEP easement. It's almost like in a, lack of a better term, a tunnel in that area.
Right. Oh, fascinating. Lori, are you there?
Yeah, I had a question, John, for you. Thank you for the presentation, very thorough and very exciting that we're getting more affordable housing in the city. So that's fantastic. Hope lots of people get to take advantage of it. I had a question, and maybe it doesn't seem like an architect's question, but the fence that's there with the patterning on it, and I'm thinking about the land that's inside that, and two questions. A, how long is that earth going to sit there, or this open space? Let's just call it the open space. And would it be possible to just make the screen more transparent and, throw some clover seeds out there or something, so that, instead of the community being, as they begin to move in, they have this hard line against that space, which will eventually be construction, I understand, but something that would be a bit more pleasant and improve quality of life there, and add to maybe the oxygen level or something.
Yeah, we can look into it. This is going a little bit into Rick Parisi's world for the landscape, but that parcel is currently not controlled by Related as part of the development process. So the city is an owner, but I think we can work to see, it would benefit everybody if we come up with an interim solution that's a better quality of life situation until that is developed. So I think we can investigate that and maybe come back in the preliminary proposal with a little bit more advancement on that, and both the landscape and how it affects the building design.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just had one more question, which was about your potential community gardens on the roof, which I think are very exciting because you speak so much about creating community here, which I agree is super important, because you've got, I don't know how far people are going to have to go to get their carton of milk, the proverbial carton of milk and that kind of thing. Maybe there'll be something here eventually, but I really hope you can hold on to that component. It seems like a great thing for this housing to have. And I hope the word potential can be removed and it can just be community gardens on the roof.
Yeah, we're really excited about it too. And we're fortunate that Related has done these community gardens in another affordable project that they've constructed and managed. And they view it as very successful to building that community. They also help program it so it doesn't just take on a life of its own, so that it really does have interaction with many members of the community and forming garden clubs and things like that. The reason we had potential for a lot of those things is we're looking in the concept phase at a lot of different things, and some of the technology, we have to vet out and see the affordability and how it can be implemented here. So that's why we use potential for all of it. But I think by the time we come back into preliminary, we'll have narrowed those down, but I'm pretty sure that the community garden is going to remain.
Yeah, John, I'll echo what you just said.
Thank you.
This is something that we've done already at Hunters Point South, and in the first building there, which is also similar to this, is all affordable, and we did that in partnership with Grow NYC, and then ended up being a great community incubator for the buildings. As John mentioned, there's a garden club, and so I think of all the things we're studying, as John mentioned, that has probably the highest probability of success. So I think I'm hopeful that it remains as well. I don't know that it'll remain as large as it is on the rendering right now, but I think it'll definitely be a component of the rooftop program.
Okay, well, we'll be looking forward to future views and plans of that space and the rest of it. Thank you.
And the only thing I would say is that I know that the site work and the architecture were segmented for the purposes of conceptual, but it would be really helpful in the future if they were one presentation, so we can kind of answer or see everything working together. Ken Seth, did you want to say something?
Yes, I saw that you had created a new community, this slide, which highlights that there may be art in conjunction with what is proceeding. And I wanted to suggest, particularly right now, there's an installation that is with Art in the Parks program, which is showing the artist at that Willits Point subway stop. it's temporary, but I think it'll be up for a year or two. And that particular artist highlights, one, he's a Queens native, and he highlights the history of Queens native artists, like LL Cool J and et cetera. But I think it's significant to reach out to the local artists. And if you will have the rooftops, that is a great place to place sculptures to celebrate that landscape and the artists who came up. I mean, obviously, hip hop is still the #1 form of music worldwide, and celebrated not enough, in my opinion. But that's opinion. But I think it's Sherwin, the artist, and the other artist is Lee Haxel, and the program is the Art in the Parks program. And I think this one was curated by, I'm not going to remember the curator's name right now. But if you reach out, I can make sure I give, because I have the curator's contact information. But I think specifically working with Art in the Parks to focus a bit on artists who have local roots will be beneficial and also maybe fun.
Thank you.
No problem.
It looks like there are no more comments, Signe.
Okay, great. Then let us move on to the third committee meeting item, which is the reconstruction of a salt shed and interim compost facility as part of the Gowanus Canal combined sewer overflow, known to many of us as CSOs, at 2nd Avenue and 6th Street in Brooklyn. Presenters, please begin with Grace's nod.
Hi, I'm going to give control to Kevin.
Okay, great. Can you unmute Kevin Keating as well?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you, Grace. Right. So good morning, commissioners. My name is Alicia West, and I'm DEP's Director of Public Design Outreach. I'm joined today by Kevin Keating of Seldorf Architects. And we've also got our team members from Scape, Hazen, and Brown and Caldwell here to answer any questions. So we're very excited to present the conceptual designs for the new DSNY salt shed and interim compost facility, which is the first phase of work as we prepare this site for the construction of the second Gowanus Canal combined sewer overflow facility. Kevin, can you go to the next slide? So many of you may remember Seldorf's design for the CSO facility at Head House at the head end of the canal, which is shown here, a little picture window. You graciously awarded this project, thank you. So we're really excited to have the same team working with us on the design of the architecture for what we call the Owl's Head site, which is located at the bend of the canal and is shown in that orange triangular shape there. Thank you, Kevin. So designs are in the work for the Owl's Head CSO facility's head house, as well as about 1.8 acres of waterfront open space. And we'll be back to share those in the coming months, but this is the first phase of work that has to happen with the salt shed. So that's where we are in our schedule to share that with you. So we do appreciate that the construction sequencing is complex, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have to the best of our ability at this point. So I'm going to pass it along to Kevin to walk you through the site context and the proposed design for the salt shed and the interim compost facility. And of course, I'll stick around for any questions you may have.
Great. Thank you, Alicia. My name is Kevin Keating. I'm a partner at Seldorf Architects, and truly appreciate the opportunity to present the conceptual design for the salt shed. But first, let me start you off by showing you where the site is. As Alicia mentioned, we're on the Gowanus Canal. This is the second phase of a two-phase project. We are located at the Owl's Head site, which is at the midpoint of the canal where the canal bends and starts to make its way north again. Just south of the peninsula is the 6th Street turning basin, which we'll get into shortly. We are in the IBZ zone. This is the South Brooklyn Industrial Business Zone. This is dedicated to preserving industrial and manufacturing within the city. One key element here to note is that there is the F train viaduct that comes out of the Carroll Street station, makes its way over to Smith and 9th, which is the highest elevated station in all of New York City, offering great views of the site. and then it makes its way back into 4th Avenue. This is a view from that train on the F train as you're making your way into the city, into Carroll Street Station. The area outlined here is the Owl's Head site. It's approximately 5 acres. It also has approximately 1,700 linear feet of waterfront. And the area highlighted here is the proposed location for the new salt shed. This again is a view from the Smith and 9th Street station looking at the site. This is looking due north. You can see here the large site, 5 acres, and the proposed location for the salt shed, as we'll get into. I'll just quickly walk you through a few of these images of the existing conditions of the site. But first, let me start with what's on site. There's quite a variety of things. First, there is an existing DEP pump station, which is a below grade structure, which will be incorporated into the new proposal. There is the DSMY salt lot. This is a great aerial view because you could actually see this in construction as it was many years ago. But there's the existing salt lot. The area here where my cursor is where their plow racks are. This is the salt shed itself. Adjacent to that is Big Reuse composting facility. They have their aeration bays and composting bays, as you can see here where my cursor is. In partnership with Big Reuse, there is the Gowanus Canal Conservancy. They do many community engagement programs, and they work hand in hand with Big Reuse. Additionally to that, there are a number of industrial manufacturing buildings that are south of 5th Street, which bisects the site. DEP is working with those business owners to relocate them. And one other mention is the parking facility. This is a bus parking facility that is over here where my cursor is at the tail end of the peninsula. Let me just note that this portion of the site is completely inaccessible to the public as we speak, especially around the 6th Street turning basin. Now I'll just quickly walk you through these images. This is, if you're familiar with it, this is the Esplanade at Whole Foods. This is looking due west. There's the salt shed where my cursor is, and you can see the F train viaduct as it rolls into Carroll Street Station. This is now 2 views of the 6th Street turning basin. This is where the bus depot is, I should say bus parking lot is, and again, inaccessible to the public. Here are 2 views. There's a view looking north towards the powerhouse, and this is a view on where my cursor is, the current condition of the 6th Street turning basin. This is now a view along 2nd Avenue. This is a view looking north towards the F train viaduct. This page right is a view of a DOC facility, probation office, which is directly across the street from the proposed location of the CSO facility. These again are 2 more images of the surrounding context. You can see these low-lying warehouse type structures. The image here to the right is actually a view of the current condition of 5th Street. This road will be demapped as part of this overall project. Here again, this is from across the water, looking back at the site. And this is the current condition of the salt lot as you make your way in off the 2nd Avenue. And these last 2 images are this is the salt shed itself in its current state. This is also to the right is Big Reuse composting. You can see these composting bays and their storage shed as it currently is. So this is now an illustration of the site during construction. The area in orange is the construction zone needed to facilitate the build out of the CSO facility. As part of a first phase, we need to relocate the salt lot and DSMY to the south of the site. In addition to that, and that is actually I highlighted here in red. In addition to that, we are going to temporarily relocate composting so that there still could be continuous public access to drop off composting while the facility is in construction. This here is an image of the site and the infrastructure on site in its permanent location. You could see the CSO facility on the north end of the site. The red is the sort of massing of the building. We're still developing that, but you can see here the underground tank as it makes its way westward. The salt lot is, as I mentioned, in its location south of the access alley. We again are demapping 5th Street. And we are going to move the temporary composting facility over westward towards the location for the GCC. These will be good in combination with each other as we build out the master plan for the site. In doing this, a key goal here is to provide as much waterfront and accessibility to the public. The area highlighted here in yellow is indicative of the potential space that we are able to offer back to the public. So let me just zoom in here. This is a site plan of the salt lot in its temporary condition. The salt shed will be permanently located. The lot itself will be slightly reconfigured in its permanent form, but in its temporary form, you can see one key thing here is to note the elevational difference between 2nd Avenue, which has an elevation of 8. And we're trying to make our way up to a floodplain elevation of 14. This is the extension of that temporary setup where we have composting and its components along 2nd Avenue, again, to provide continuous public access to the composting facility for drop-off. This is now a plan view of the site of the salt shed. The salt shed remains in place. We're providing PV cells, about 7,000 square feet of PV cells on top of the salt shed itself. You could see the plow racks. There will be 25 plow racks to accommodate 75 plow blades. Access for the DSMY trucks will be off of the access alley on the north side, and they will discharge and exit off of 2nd Avenue. So let me start by saying that in order to properly design this facilities, we and the team have had many conversations with DSMY to understand the requirements and functions needed to develop this project. Simply put, here are the main drivers. Let us first start with the salt. The salt is obviously used during the winter months to remove snow and ice after a winter rainstorm or a snowstorm. Secondly, in order to maneuver that salt around the site, we need push walls that could actually be pushed against by the front end loader and positioned into place. Secondly, we need an enclosure over that salt in order to protect it from the elements. And in addition to that, we need to provide ventilation within the shed itself, as you can see by this reveal between the two elements. Thirdly, we need to provide the height to accommodate a front end loader on top of the salt pile and basically allow us to have an interior dimension of 31 feet, which will provide an external dimension of 36 feet for the shed itself. There will be 12-foot push walls at this location. That 12 feet is dictated from the interior portion of the site itself, with the 22-foot opening at the eastern end of the shed. So let us now dive into the context in which the project is in. The character of the site is in the IBZ zone. This is distinctly industrial, and the surrounding Gowanus neighborhood is marked by a consistent and monochromatic material palette of low-rise warehouse-type buildings. It's distinctly industrial. The community has told us that they would like to uphold this. The community has mentioned that they want the facilities to be true, honest, and representative of the Gowanus environment. These here are a series of photos that speak to us and that are reflective of the prevailing character around the site. We agree with the community and believe that the architecture for these structures should be reflective of the surrounding aesthetic. Our effort is to make these buildings have a combination of grit and grace that is emblematic of this area. To that point, we have identified a selection of materials that are tough yet refined, and industrious yet graceful, detailed yet greeting. In keeping with the community's recommendation to keep the city facilities honest to their nature, we have employed three main primary architectural elements. First, the cast in place concrete will be used for the push wall. Again, these can withstand the force of the salt being pushed against them. Secondly, the corrugated metal panel will provide the enclosure needed above the salt pile. And third, a transparent metal screen will be provided around the perimeter of the fencing. The material palette has been selected to be restrained and contextual from the neighborhood's industrial yards, sheds, and buildings. These materials will be applied in three simple yet functional forms. First, the concrete will be used to create the push walls that wrap the perimeter. You can see here on the right-hand page right, the push wall will start at a low elevation of 2 feet. This is at 2nd Avenue, and gradually make its way up as it makes its way towards the salt shed. Secondly, the corrugated metal panel is employed as a refined surface treatment on the shed, helping protect the salt from the elements. Third, the screen made of metal mesh creates the visual transparency and protected enclosure that is needed along the perimeter at 2nd Avenue. We wanted to create a visually transparent enclosure at this end to allow one visual access to the happenings of the facility inside. Ultimately, the industrial yet refined design is intended to sit within the waterfront landscape, striking the balance between natural systems and industry, which is the defining character of Gowanus. Some suggestions of the waterfront landscaping concepts are included here, and we are working with our friends over at Scape to develop these conceptual ideas in partnership with the community. This elevation here shows you a view of the site or the project itself along the 6th Street turning basin, looking due north. In the foreground, you can see that we are exploring multi-story landscaping concepts that we are working with Scape on. This now is a view of the temporary condition. When the images are black and white, it shows you the temporary configuration. When the images are color, it will show you the permanent configuration of the project. Here you can see the composting over at 2nd Avenue. I'll quickly stroll through these. This is now a view of the facility from the western side. There too is the composting there to the right page right. This is now a view of the salt lot from 2nd Avenue. You can see the salt pile in the distance on the simple and refined form of the salt shed. The metal mesh screen in the foreground provides pedestrian visual access to the functions and happenings of the facility. This is the composting here to page left. Again, public access will be provided during construction. This is now a view of the facility as you are walking along the access alley. You can see the simple and material forms as they meet each other. This now here is a series of sections that we're detailing. And here you could see a view of the site along 2nd Avenue as you make your way up the access alley. You can see the interaction between the materials and forms of the facility and the more transparent quality of the foreground that is defined by this metal mesh screen. Let me close by saying we believe with the community that industrial architecture should be true to its function, yet these functions and forms can be designed and developed in a way that provides a neighboring backdrop that is subtle, intriguing, and beautiful. Again, I thank you for your time. And my team and I look forward to continuing to work with and hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions, comments, concerns?
I would just say thank you for that very informative presentation and very elegant industrial building. It's great to see that care being taken with projects like this. So much appreciated.
Thank you
so much.
I have a question. I see that you responded to an earlier question from some commissioners during a pre-review regarding potential maintenance partners, and it's good to see that you've got a number who might be prepared to step up. But I know that at least one of them, the Parks Department, has some pretty clear guidelines, if you will, for what they consider to be palettes of materials, both hardscape and softscape. Do you think that by the next time that you present this, you will have an understanding of who those maintenance partners might be for the site?
We hope so. So we've been working with our friends at the Parks Department, and we have been also having community meetings. We've had 2 so far, with sort of a broader public engagement program that we're doing throughout the year, in addition to, our typical community board engagement. So all of that is still evolving, and the Parks Department, we are aware of their standards. They've been very clear about their expectations. We are hopeful that with plans for a waterfront open space business improvement district in Gowanus, which is proceeding as a part of the rezoning, that will have a little bit of like a bench of folks to help out and maybe allow us to do some things that parks may be less comfortable with in their typical palette. But all of that is ongoing conversations, but we do, I think people are very excited to see what we can do here and how it'll turn out.
Well, there's no question it would be a real asset to the community. And, I applaud the project generally for, creating a site plan that would result in this much waterfront access. So I'm wholly supportive.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners? I can't see everyone's face right now, but Carrie or Grace, if you can see if anyone's raising their hand.
I don't see anyone. I see everyone, sorry. I don't see anyone raising their hand.
Well, I know you put a lot, this is to the team. I know you put a lot of effort into this presentation, and so please don't take lack of comments as a sign that your efforts are not being appreciated, but rather as a sign that you've done a very thorough presentation, and it's a very solid one in terms of your strategy. So that said, again, if there are no other commissioners, we thank you very much for this presentation and look forward to the next iteration.
Thank you so much, Signe. Thank you everyone for your time.
Yes, thank you so
much.
much.
See you, Alicia.
Good to see you always. Take care.
Take care. All right. We are now going to move on to our next committee item, which is the reconstruction of Green Croft Playground on Green Croft Avenue between Ainsworth Avenue and Redgrave Avenue in Staten Island. Grace will let you know when to begin, presenters. Thank you.
Okay, Jen, I've given you control. So go ahead and start when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Lozon. I am a landscape architect at the New York City Parks Department, and I'll be presenting to you the conceptual submission for Green Croft Playground in Staten Island. This project was council funded. We have a total budget of 8.4 million, and our project size is about 1.9 acres. Okay. Our goals are to upgrade the active play capacity for the park and the neighborhood, improve accessibility, circulation, and sightlines in the park, enhance and add to the environmental amenities of the site, including green infrastructure, and reducing flooding in low-lying areas. So this park is located in the Bay Terrace neighborhood of Staten Island, and it is adjacent to the PS 53 school. The park is not in the flood zone. There is some flooding in adjacent streets during major storm events. And primarily the surrounding neighborhood is low density residential. As far as parks within the 10-minute walk, we have Seidenberg Park, which is mostly natural areas and hiking trails, and then the Great Kills Park, which is currently closed due to contamination. So this site has a few different elevation changes, which you'll see, I'll show you with more clarity later, but this upper terrace currently has 2 to 5 play. There is one accessible entrance into the park on Redgrave Avenue. There's stairs from this upper terrace down to this main level with the comfort station that is currently in construction. We have 5 to 12 play currently located on the same level as the comfort station. There are stairs coming into the site from Croft Avenue. Then there is some basketball courts that were recently renovated, and then on a lower level, there is currently a baseball field and a natural area. So the baseball field's open and sunny. We have some flooding in the outfield area and as well as the natural area. The play areas are currently asphalt that's in poor condition with older play equipment. So this slide shows the different elevation changes. The yellow is the highest level at about 35. Each color change is at 5 feet elevation change. So the lighter green is sort of the main level, and then the darker green is the lower level with a low point of 18 feet. So there's about a 17 feet change in elevation throughout the site. This slide shows the existing trees which are in the contract and which ones we plan on removing. We will be following the DEP stormwater regulations. So for photos of the site, this is the upper level, the 2 to 5 play area currently, and you can see the basketball courts a little bit in the background. This is the current seating area along Redgrave Avenue with the school in the background, and that's the upper 2 to 5 play in the background as well. This is a view from that upper play area down to the basketball courts and the baseball field beyond. This is a baseball field with the school in the background. It's a view from the 5 to 12 play area with the natural area and the baseball field. This is also the 5 to 12 area, and you can see the construction area for the comfort station in the background. This is the old comfort station prior to it being demolished for the new comfort station. This is a view from the 2 to 5 play area, the upper terrace, down into the construction site. And we had some very successful scope meetings with both the community and the school. So the school meeting was especially great because we were able to meet with 2 classrooms. We gave them worksheets to fill out prior to the meeting. So the kids were excited and prepared with drawings and list of things that they wanted to see in the park. So it was a virtual meeting, and the children presented their ideas, and then at the end we were able to get those worksheets back, and so even the kids who didn't feel up to presenting were able to give their ideas. So after getting the thoughts and input from the community, our plan that we came up with improves circulation throughout the site, makes the site ADA accessible, expands the play with a new swing area, a spray area, new play structures, and renovation of the field for informal play. And we've also improved the drainage of the field. So enlargements of the swing area, we have a new accessible ramp coming in from Redgrave Avenue, which takes you up to the swing area. And there is a formal stair and a ramp that will take you down to the comfort station level with new spray showers. Then we have 2 to 5 play area and a 5 to 12 play area and a new accessible entrance from Croft Avenue. So this slide shows our grading plan. Grades aren't changing dramatically. We are regrading the field area to reduce flooding. This is a section through the site that shows the grade changes as well as the different play areas throughout the site. Our fencing, we're keeping minimal fencing and we'll just where needed and having handrails at the stairs and the ramps. We will be lighting the site with a pedestrian scale light post, mostly just the circulation and the active play areas. The play equipment will have lots of accessibility with ramps to the different levels within the play structures, and as well as lots of climbing features that the community requested. So this is a 5 to 12 play structure and the 2 to 5 play structure, which also has a playhouse for quieter play. The spray shower area will be all ground sprays to keep the area open, so when the spray isn't being used. So our materials are standard parks materials, and the colors were selected to coordinate with the previously approved comfort station materials. And our pedestrian light pole is on the right. So the plant selection was based on plantings that were already selected for the comfort station project, as well as plants that also do well in Staten Island. And we are increasing permeability in the site by decreasing the amount of pavement. And we are back to our schematic plan. So thank you everyone for listening and for your time. And that's all we have for our presentation today.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, any follow-up questions on this presentation? Jennifer, I had one, you've got a pretty challenging site topography to deal with. I certainly appreciate whatever you've been able to do to improve the health of the trees in those pits now. Just in terms of your experience with other playgrounds, the one thing that struck me was kind of the remoteness of the swings relative to the the play equipment. It obviously caregivers are going to have to make, and kids are going to have to make a decision sort of upon entering whether they want to go to one area or another. And the interconnectivity between why do I keep turning myself off? Sorry. The interconnectivity between those two seems a little challenging.
Right.
Have you looked at any other, I mean, the good news is you've provided a lot of swing area, which I know is well loved. Did you see any other way to sort of make the connection sort of easier and more intuitive?
We looked into different circulation possibilities. We knew that having this place separated like that was going to be a challenge. We did bring the play structure areas together so they would be on the same level. So at least the children and parents can decide sort of what they want to, what area they want to play with. Do they want to go onto swings or do they want to go on the play structures first? But with the comfort station already separating the site, there wasn't too many options because of the large amount of space that the swings take up. There wasn't any room to fit them anywhere else, and they don't have swings on the site now, and that was a huge request from the children. Really wanted swings. And we tried fitting slides on the hill, but with the grading that didn't work, and to have enough room for the slides to work out. So, you know, we tried a few different options, and this was I think the best solution that we could come up with.
Right. I can, I see the challenge, because in some ways you can work the play equipment around the existing trees, but given the footprint of the swings, it's very hard to do that. Ken Seth, I see you raised your hand.
I have two questions. The first is a bit satirical. I see that the children requested sunblock rental. I don't know what that is.
Someone, it was all the one person had a very beach theme. It was the same person who requested the outdoor sand showers and
beach showers. I was
that was the same person.
Okay, just checking in on that. I just didn't know if that was a feature in many parks.
No, I just didn't want to edit.
No, it seems great. Gotta get inclusion in there. But then a more serious question: is there a reason why there's no art in this park? Or we're not putting artwork in parks as part of the? There's no 1% for an artwork?
Okay. Ken said, this is Nancy Prince. This is an in-house project. So there's not a way to work out how to incorporate art in in-house projects. With consultant projects, Cultural Affairs has worked it out. So you'll see, and we do have the discussion with Cultural Affairs, and you'll see this year several new projects that have art. You know, the art has to be enough money that it makes sense. And then Cultural Affairs and Parks gets together and figures out which ones projects work best and how many we can manage at the same time.
Okay. And no laser tag either?
No laser tag.
Okay, fine.
Thank you, Ken Seth. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Jennifer and Nancy, thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing this move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, on our last item today is a combined presentation on the reconstruction of Hafen Park and the rehabilitation of a pool facility also at Hafen Park in the Bronx. Grace will let the presenters know when to begin.
Okay, let's unmute Nancy, and then Nancy, I've given you control, and then just let me know when to hand it over and give control to Stanley and Max.
Okay, I will do. All right. All right, so I'm going to present Hafen Park and Pool. This is a very exciting opportunity for parks because we were able to gather money to reconstruct this entire 9-acre park, which is unusual. It requires gathering money from various locations, various sources. So it will be reconstructed in 3 coordinated contracts, and we're going to go over 2 of those today. One is for the greater landscape, the active and the passive areas, and the other is an outdoor intermediate pool area that's part of this park. We'll be returning in a couple of months with reconstruction of the existing comfort station and field house. So we had pretty robust community engagement, and a lot of the community like all the features that are in the park. It has a playground, it has swings, there's sports courts and fields. There's a lot of picnicking and passive use, but it's in pretty poor condition. One thing they did want is a little bit more adult fitness, and they have quite a bit of handball courts, and they thought some of those could be reused for something else. So you'll see what we did with that in the presentation. So the goals were to create an inclusive and exciting play area for all ages, to correct a lot of drainage issues that you'll see what we were dealing with, and increase the connectivity and the circulation. Right now, there's no entrance to the park that's wheelchair accessible, and we'll be making all but one of the many entrances accessible. And we'll be incorporating the adult fitness that was asked for. Okay, the park is in the Bronx in the Baychester neighborhood. A lot of the community refer to this area as the Valley, and that's very fitting. There's not much in the 5-minute walk, and really not much in a 10-minute walk in the way of park. So this really is a very popular community park. It's bordered on 3 sides by single and 2-family housing, and on the northeast side by a rehabilitation and a nursing facility. And some of those residents and patients use the park. You can see it's well out of the flood zone. Before this was a park, there was a stream that ran through it, which explains the very silty, poorly drained soils we have now. And that was a challenge for us that we're going to be solving in design. Before it was a park, it also had a couple of pools or ponds. And here you can see the topography of the park itself, with the purple area being the bottom of the bowl. There are some pretty significant walls on the edge of on the left side of the screen here, on the west side, where the street's higher and the tennis courts are lower. And these are all the items that you can see in the park now. There's tennis courts, very popular basketball. Here's a lot of handball walls that I talked about, a popular multi-use synthetic turf field, and a playground or scattered play equipment, and a lot of picnicking in here. And sort of in the bottom, field house and comfort station. And here in this corner, you can see that the pool, the intermediate outdoor pool that you'll see later in the presentation. And here you can see how the pavements are in very poor condition. It's just worn and tired. It's definitely in need of a reconstruction. Here's some more of those paths in poor condition and the very popular tennis courts. In our new scheme, we're able to align the tennis courts for better play. Right now, they're aligned east-west, and we're going to be able to align them north-south. Here's the popular basketball and the multi-use synthetic turf. And here is the area all around the field house and comfort station, which is it has some low spots on either side. And we're going to be addressing this low area by raising up the grade to the same level as the stage, which will make a multi-use area that can be used for presentations and performances, but will also better weather the heavy rains. Here's some of the old play equipment. You can see this is periodically cordoned off because when it floods, the safety surface floats and our M&O people have to go put it back together. Here you can see the scattered play equipment, pretty old and not that interesting. And some big swings. And it does have a nice open feel with lawns and some beautiful trees. The circulation in the park is a little chaotic and you can't figure out where you're going. It's not very intuitive with a lot of extraneous pavement. This is a good shot of that. And here's showing some of the flooding problems. Oops. Sorry, I'm having trouble moving slides.
Let me try.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, let me see.
If you want to take it, I'll say next.
Hold on, let me just restart it. Can another PDC staff person share the presentation?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Pulling it up.
You can try it. I'll try it again right now. And then if it happens again, we'll try backup computer. Is this the slide you were on, Nancy?
I think it's a couple back, couple more back,
Sorry,
a little bit
right
more,
here.
right there.
Okay.
Okay. All right, just general showing you the flooding on site. Oops. Next, and this shows the circulation. People try and make their place from one, make their way from one place to another is not very intuitive. The blue area is an area that floods a lot. The yellow areas are open areas without tree roots that allow us to do some development. We're going to be very careful with the trees. Okay, next this shows the concept for the design. So we're going to really organize the circulation so it seems very clear, and it provides a loop walk around the center, which is very nice, a very nice feature. There's sort of a spine of active and social spaces that runs through the center. And all the entrances except this one that has a lot of stairs are going to be made ADA accessible. We're going to either have a ramp or regrade the path so that they're of a slope that everybody can manage. Okay, next. Okay, and here you can see the schematic. We're going to go and show you some blow-ups, but you'll see the tennis has been reorganized to be north-south. And this allows us to have 2 full-size basketball courts. And here you can see that we're keeping one handball wall and then rethinking the other handball walls and using them for something else. There's an area that will have fitness equipment, an area that can be used for Zumba and yoga. And then we're going to use the wall to have a very exciting climbing wall. So next, here's a blow up of one of the sitting areas that's near the basketball and between the basketball and the baseball field, and next to the comfort station and central area. Here's that blow up of the handball walls that are converted to other uses. You can see on the top, we're keeping one handball wall for tennis and playing handball. Then we have adult fitness and an area for Zumba and yoga, as I said. And then you'll see in future slides the perspective of the climbing wall. Next, so here's that climbing wall. It's got GFRC climbing structures that look like rocks, and then a painting that is reflective of a scene of mountains. Here's a close-up of the climbing wall. And here's the adult fitness area. And here's the area around the field house and comfort station where we raised up the grade behind it to get rid of the pond that used to be here. And that's a much more interesting area. Here it shows the sections showing the raising of that grade. And here's a close-up of the playground area. It's really a place of its own now. It has play for older kids on the left and younger kids on the right. There was a small basketball court that some of the younger kids like, so we're retaining that use and putting it here. And right in the middle is a spray shower, some leaves that drop spray that will be a lot of fun. And the whole thing is raised out of the wet area. So we'll be doing some green infrastructure around here to manage the stormwater. Here's a shot of the play equipment for older kids and for younger kids. And here shows the very popular picnic that we're making more formalized. We're giving areas where people use wheelchairs can also come to the picnic tables. And from this area, you can overlook this area with trees. So there's some lounge chairs that will be fun to relax and look at the landscape. And around the circular walk, there'll be some other fitness areas that are specifically for older adults. And as usual, we're minimizing our fencing to what's just required. You can see the handrails and on the ramps and stairs at the entrances. And we're using our standard furniture, a whole variety of ways to sit, more standard furniture. And on the bottom right, you can see the large spray leaves that will be in the spray shower. And really standard, easy to maintain pavements, but it'll be a lot nicer. We have some fun colors and some interesting patterns. And we're making the most of the existing trees and adding some more, particularly flowering understory trees to draw people into the entrances. And really enhancing the understory. And the permeability stays about the same, but we've been able to make the pavements much more logical. Okay, now I'll turn it over to landscape architecture Max Goodstein and architect Stanley Chu from our office, and they'll go through the intermediate pool.
Hello, everyone. 53 years ago, in the summer of 1969, Mayor Lindsay held the grand opening for Hafen Park Pool, and it was grand. He actually flew by helicopter from Lower Manhattan to open this pool. Today, we will be presenting its first reconstruction. And this is a reconstruction project that we are particularly excited about because it will serve as a pilot. At Parks, we're always looking for ways to maximize the value of our assets and introduce efficiencies into our facilities. In addition to the actual pool itself, our pool facilities have these bathhouse buildings. And Hafen is one of about a dozen intermediate pool sites designed similarly, with an intermediate pool, a top pool, and these cube-shaped buildings you see here. These buildings, however, are used just 10 weeks of the year for the pool season and sit dormant for the rest. Here at Hafen, for the first time, we are transforming these buildings into year-round spaces, not only serving the pool during the 10-week pool season, but serving our maintenance and operations division with a new district hub for all 12 months. This is going to provide needed offices, storage, and logistics to assist in maintaining our Bronx parks, radiating out from Hafen Park Pool and having a borough-wide effect. One of our major goals are to transform these buildings into year-round spaces, serving the pool use with bathrooms, locker rooms, lifeguard areas, while also introducing maintenance operations uses, activating this corner of the park year-round. And this is just a pilot. We are going to bring what we are doing at Hafen to other pools citywide, which we also just got funding for in the most recent budget. This transformation and multi-use approach will save the agency and the city money while also taking an environmentally conscious approach by reducing the need to build entirely new space by ground up construction. But first and foremost, this is a pool. And we're elevating that pool use for the community by providing an enhanced entrance experience, a comprehensive reconstruction of the pool deck area, including bright deck pavement and overhauled bath facilities. So we'll get into it now. This is the existing addition. You can see Eli and Burke Avenue to the right of this image. You go down, this is the main entrance to the entrance area of the pool, and then the bathhouse buildings. You go onto the pool deck, and on the pool deck, there's actually a DP access corridor, which we are maintaining. And there's a main pool and a waiting pool. These two pools are at different deck levels. Currently, there's only stair access. There's no ADA accessibility between the two. Go further into the existing additions with photos. On the left, this is the existing pedestrian entrance off Burke Avenue. You can see that mostly everyone comes in from this entrance, or they're supposed to, at least right now, but there is a desire path, and that desire path goes to Eli and Burke Avenue. So a lot of the population that uses this pool wants to use this entrance. On the right, this is the bathhouse entrance area with the pavement built for queuing of the pool area. It's just one big pavement area with concrete with normal slabs. We are going to provide new parking on Burke Avenue because we do have that new use of M&O use in the pool area. They need to park their vehicles, their park operations vehicles, and we want to keep them outside the park. The pool deck itself on the right has this beautiful mature London plane tree and a relatively small tree pit, which we will expand and provide more seating because it provides just this excellent shade on the pool deck. The pool deck itself is this concrete from the 1960s. The pool deck lighting is currently out of scale with the current use and the pretty tall fixtures. This is the proposed plan. Again, we'll start from Eli and Burke Avenue. We'll go into more detail as we progress. At Eli and Burke Avenue, we're providing a new accessible entrance into the pool area, which will lead directly down to the pool entrance plaza. This pool entrance plaza will introduce pool users to the design language you're using in the pool with this radiating pavement. The pavement out here is not colored, it is just regular concrete pavement. But as you go into the bathhouse buildings, which have been reconstructed and connected, you go onto the pool deck and you are introduced to this radiating bright blue, Euro blue pavement that's radiating out from the mature London plane tree with the bigger tree pit to make it grow healthy in the future as well. The DP access corridor you can see is maintained. We're actually reducing the amount of concrete in that area. The main pool is remaining the same. And then the wading pool is up on top with the existing shade structure. However, we are now connecting the two decks with an ADA ramp. Again, Eli and Burke Avenue, this is the existing entrance. You can see the current main access to the pool has more than 10% grade. You can see the desired path going to Eli and Burke Avenue. In the proposed condition, we have the proposed entrance ramp, which will provide the new entrance experience to pool users going to Eli and Burke Avenue. And then the pool entrance area. There are three main user groups here: the M&O staff from the Parks Department, the queuing pool users, and the exiting pool users. We want to keep these groups separate from one another, especially M&O staff. So the M&O staff are going to use the existing entrance to go in and out of the park and transition materials in and out of the park, while the pool users will mainly use Eli and Burke Avenue entrance and then queue in the new entrance plaza. The main pool deck, this is the existing addition from a drone view. You can see that the main pool deck has a concrete pavement. It's not connected with any ramps. And then the proposed condition with the radiating pavement. Again, the main pool deck, existing addition with the walls over here and the tall light fixture. In the proposed condition, we will be providing a new shade structure, which Stanley will talk about later, but that will have seating underneath, and the wall will also be reduced in height to increase sight lines across the project area. This is our standard planting palette. Trees we're going to use on site. And Stanley, please take it over.
Thank you, Max. Thanks, Nancy. Yeah, just to give you an idea of the existing condition of the bathhouses, on the left is the pool complex from inside, and we'll be removing these concrete canopies that you see here in the front that are in front of the egresses so that we could provide ADA clearance. And on the right here, you get an idea of the facades from the interior of the park. This is the existing program and circulation of the current bathhouse. And as Max mentioned, it's a space that's only occupied during the pool season. And as it is, the men's locker room is actually twice as large as the women's locker room. And there are significantly more lockers than actually the Department of Health occupancy allows. So here we redesigned the program where we combine all the public bath features in the lower half of the plan with the addition of this new breezeway you see here in yellow. And this is going to house the men's lockers. And also this will provide a new entrance, a new public entrance here. On the upper half of the plan in green, you'll see the new area for the year-round parks maintenance and operation use. And also here in the center, we have a space for the lifeguards and the first aid room and the pool supervision office. And if you just notice here, this hatch here is in black here. This is where the new construction will be. This new construction is going to connect the upper three cubes. It'll connect that with this central building. And the central building is connected to the four lower cubes by that new breezeway here. These elevations above shows the front of the pool complex. So presently the entrance is located here where we have this yellow building. This is the current entrance. And we're moving that to its left to that new breezeway here in blue. And to the right of this building here, you have our new maintenance and operations building for park staff. And the lower elevation shows the inside of the pool complex we have a combination of perforated and louvered steel screens. Oh, just wanted to mention, you see that the structural frames, the columns and beams together with the concrete hut roofs, these will be stripped of paint, will be repaired with a cement wash. And then it's the infill wall panels that will be painted in these colors. And then also, and all the metal elements will be either louvers and will be powder coated steel. Oops. And this shows the an elevation of that breezeway that houses the new men's lockers, and you see the new roof profile we're proposing over that. So at the west end of the pool deck, as Max mentioned, we have a new filter plant enclosure. And then we have a long seat bench that'll be integrated into an existing wall. And above that, we have a shade structure. So it was necessary for us to enclose the pool filter equipment for security and for ease of maintenance. But we found this to be a good opportunity to also provide a nice amenity for the pool users during the summer. So you can see from the roof plan that over the portion over the filter plant is solid to keep the restricted area dry, but the portion above the seating area is louvered to provide airflow from underneath while still providing shade. And so from these studies, just give you a rough example how the shade will perform. And this seems ample enough during the hours when it's open to the public. And the following slides just give you an idea of how the building will look. This is the view from Burke Avenue. The darker green color of the facades will allow the building to recede a bit into the landscape. But as you approach the entrance plaza, you get a sense of the vibrant colors that will be more prevalent on the inside of the pool complex. And you can see the new entrance that we're proposing here in blue. And again, on the right side, you see the entrance for the park staff. A rendering from the inside of the park, again, the dark green where the facades can appear a bit quieter. But on the interior, you see that the colors are more fun and vibrant. And this view shows that men's locker room breezeway. And the yellow orange building in the foreground is housing toilets and showers. This is the view of that London plane tree that Max referred to, and you see the new planter bed that we're proposing. And here's a rendering of that shade structure that's connected to that filter plant enclosure. Just some standard features that have proven to be weather resistant and vandal resistant at parks. And that's it. Thank you. We welcome your comments and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. This is obviously a huge project, and I had a question. Does the Parks Department have a I don't know, a policy or something with regard to the size of the budgets, that is, parks that are given to consultants versus those that are done in-house?
I'll answer that. This is Nancy Prince. And it's not really the size of the budget. It really has to do with our workload and capacity. So we've given out smaller projects to consultants and larger projects. You notice all the anchor parks projects went to the consultants, but that's not always the case. We do sometimes keep some larger projects in-house.
Okay, thanks.
I understand that the facilities usually only use 10 weeks in a year. And so here it's going to be available the rest of the year. For what? Do you know what I mean? I'm curious because I mean, obviously there are bathroom facilities in there, there's showers there, there's open space there. What do you have in mind?
I think.
Good afternoon. This is Mark Folks, Parks Deputy Commissioner and Chief Operating Officer. Apologize for my voice. The small building that is currently in the middle of Hafen Park is our district maintenance headquarters for District 11 in the Bronx. So we operate out of this park year-round as a maintenance hub. Those are the functions that will be moved into the fully conditioned M&O spaces in this building. So it'll be our district maintenance facility, and moving it to this building on the edge of the park makes coming and going to the facility much less impactful in the park itself. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I just this is Lori Hawkinson question. I would have echoed Signy's question about the strategy for using consultants on a project of this scale. It seems like $52 million is a huge project for you. I mean, it's a great budget for somebody. So, and well-deserving communities. So not to say, you know, you're not doing that, but I just was wondering about how that gets just kind of doled out there. The question I have has to do with, I have a very specific question about the solar study and the solar canopy, but also wanted to comment on just the concept, I guess, the concept for the pavement and the buildings around that. So and maybe we go to the plan if we can, would be great. Because I love those buildings. I was trying to do a little research, but I can't find out who designed them. I think the buildings are so fantastic. The concrete is very efficient, and not to take it down is a great idea. Just keep it there. It seems sound. The colorful painting on it is fantastic. So I was just wanting to know more about not that we're trying to preserve some kind of, plan here, but and to be sympathetic, with the existing structures and the relationship to the pool. So it seems like this plan design is emanating from a tree and some seating around the tree, and then that's kind of echeloning out into a plan for pavement, which is fine. But I was just in looking at the slides earlier when it was shown to me last week, it seems that seating area is a great idea under the tree, especially at the entry court on the right side here of the plan, because as you say, people are waiting out there. A lot of kids, we all know the pickup and drop off and all of that. But I'm just wondering if it couldn't be extended even more, instead of just being a circle, if it couldn't be, a lozenge, just to kind of get more seating in there. So that's a design question. And I know you're in an early phase of this. And so, rather than just thinking about this design as a kind of something that we see from above in plan and using a protractor, maybe we should think about, just maybe stretching it and expanding that. This just a thought. And then I wanted to talk about the canopy, which was said is now ample enough. Maybe we can look at the canopy. This is just a kind of detail, but I spent a lot of time sitting around swimming pools with small children, as I know some people have as well. And so you rush through this solar shadow study quite quickly. And you have a pattern on it so that you're letting the water go through, I understand, and then it shifts direction, which I kind of didn't understand why. But it feels very kind of mean and tight. And it just seems like it's so important to be able to get in the shade, because this is the summer and it's so hot at these places and the pavement is exuding heat. And, most people are just kind of all this area that's under shade is always where everybody's clamoring to sit. So to make a long story here short, I just wish we could have a more ample and generous shaded area. I think the tree is fantastic and you're keeping it. So specific questions about the dimension, I know it's just kind of, you're stretching it out and it's trying to emulate, some kind of screening structure, but just specifically in terms of the roof where that little hand was. So it goes from a short span to a long stretch of these slots. So that's a question. And then just, the spacing and everything, when you show the shadow in the rendering, when you showed the rendering of this, not the shadow drawings, there, it doesn't look like a lot of shade. It looks like, I remember standing under a canopy at the Children's Museum in Queens that it didn't have enough shade. It was perforated. And I just thought, wow, I'm not getting enough shade. So sorry for taking so much time, but I just feel like this is a very important component here that we want to, and you've got a big budget. And I know you don't have all the money for the canopy, but it is about quality of people's lives.
Yeah, we'll explore, and Lori, thank you for the comment. We'll explore enlarging it. I would just say the reason for the perforating the surface is because the heat, we don't want the heat to get trapped underneath the solid surface. So I think that'll actually make the space cooler, but we'll look into optimizing the shape.
Great.
I had a question for Nancy. You mentioned very early on when you showed that the site had a river or stream under it and that there's some silty soil problems, but then you also mentioned the aspiration of putting in some green infrastructure. And I just wondered how that is going to work with these underlying soils that potentially have drainage limitations.
Yes, some of it will be green infrastructure, but some of it will be volumes of broken stone that holds the storm and lets it out slowly underneath the playground area and those low-lying areas. So some of it will be traditional green, handled with plants, but a lot of it will be more structured.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you.
I have one final question about these other, I'm sort of stuck on this idea that we're going to get another 8 months of use out of these facilities. And I know that there's going to be the relocation of the facilities for parks use, but I wondered, is there a way to ask people in the local community how they could further use that space? Because that's a business hour use. And if there are community groups and you have, open space and it has to be maintained, I wonder, obviously not necessarily using it as a pool, but as an open space that has bathroom facilities that can host neighborhood events, can be a hub in a different way. Is there a way for that space, if you're thinking about it being 365 days a year, that other people can get use out of it that extends beyond just as a pool? Does that make sense? Or
yeah, Ken, Seth, I think we didn't tell you the second half of that story. We're moving the maintenance and operations out of the building that's in the center of the park. So that's going to take up the pool area, which makes more space in that building, the building that was in my presentation that had the amphitheater in the back. So in moving the maintenance and operation people from that center of the park, that opens that up for greater community use along with that little amphitheater. And then I would say the area around the pool, there isn't a lot of open area around the pool. It's, it's a deck around the pool. But this area in the center that won't have parks vehicles there won't be parks vehicles parked there anymore. That's going to be open to the public, that area there. Thank you. So if in essence, we're moving a lot of maintenance activity and maintenance personnel that are around this center of the park to these buildings and the parking along the street, which opens this up for greater community use. And that will have bathrooms. I don't know if Commissioner Folk has any more to add, but I think that's a great trade-off that gives the community indoor and outdoor space that's more useful.
Just.
Yeah, thank you, Nancy. Yeah, I was just going to provide a little bit more of a history. The building in the middle of the park there used to be a community center and was a public program recreation center until the mid-1980s, when due to budget cuts, staffing was reduced and that program was eliminated. So it's been a maintenance facility and public restrooms the last 30 to 40 years. Now, as Nancy said, by moving the maintenance hub for the district out of that and off to this expanded pool complex or re-envisioned pool complex, then separately, Park will be bringing back to you the redesign of this building to reintroduce it as a community-focused use.
But it isn't designed yet.
You'll see it in the next several months.
And that's not part of this 53 million. That's another budget entirely.
It's part of these coordinated projects. So
okay.
So it will be coming to you in the next several months.
Cool. So basically, yes, people are going to get more community space, and it's going to be dedicated as opposed to cut up into different time. Okay, great. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. I was a bit confused about that because it wasn't entirely clear what was happening if you were doing that. But thank you. I really appreciate that.
I have one more question. A couple more questions. So in terms of those existing structures, those concrete structures that you intend to move the operations into, so what were the functions in there? You had too many lockers, just to stay on Kenseth's question a little bit. You had too many lockers. I mean, we couldn't open them up and make them outdoor covered areas for people to sit under or something. I mean, I know I'm really out of line here maybe, but I'm just trying to think a little out of the box here. And then the second question, not necessarily related, but I was thinking, you mentioned that you had a field house and an amphitheater. And that, are those just as is, nothing happens to those? I mean, that field house, I just saw this rectangular section. What's the story with that? Is there a longer story about that?
So that structure in the center will be reconstructed. There's the bones of it there. So we'll reconstruct the interior of it, reorganize the comfort station to be ADA and make more sense. And then there will be this, I guess the diamond shaped area could be available for community activities. And that can be more directly connected to this open plaza and an existing amphitheater that we're reconstructing.
But there's a design strategy that we'll be seeing then on that.
So the design
TBD.
Yes, yes. The strategy for the surrounding and how the grades work and the circulation is worked out in this plan. The reconstruction of this building you will be seeing shortly.
And this is the area where you're raising the grade.
Yes.
Right. So this is all, yeah, right. This is all raised. This, what you're referring to, the amphitheater?
Yes.
Is those steps there, those 4 seats? Okay.
Yeah.
And then the field house is
on the left there. And you can see how we have, this is going to be a community room, a community space.
Well,
right now it's good.
I don't see much. So that's what I'm wondering is, am I going to see more?
You are going to see more. You're going to see this.
Because I'm very interested in that.
The concept of making it the threshold accessible and you to be able to make this space ADA accessible and connected with this outdoor plaza and the existing seating is that we have that concept. You'll see the details of the building.
But are you just painting the building? I mean, is the building just, where's that photo? That is kind of sad.
It's very sad.
Yeah, so that's what I'm wondering what the design concept is for that area.
Right. So we looked at this.
Besides just ADA, and
right,
of course that goes without
Yeah.
saying anything. Yeah.
So this building will get a new face, a new finish, reorganized inside. It wasn't in so bad condition that we should just take it completely down. It's with saving, but it'll be re-envisioned the way it looks on the outside, the way the doors are oriented, and the way it's organized inside. And you will be seeing that in the next couple of months. That's being coordinated with these other contracts.
Thank you.
It's not as much of a fun building as the
It could
as
be
the
fun.
pools. It could be fun.
It should all be fun.
It could be
All
fun.
should be fun. That's what
Yeah.
our money's for, right?
Yeah. The pool is definitely fun. So this
Yeah,
will be
well,
more
let's spread
fun.
the fun, you know.
Yep.
Looks very sad right now, so.
We're not going to argue with that.
Great.
And the park will be done about the same time. That contract may lag a little bit. But
Okay. Any other commissioners?
But the funding is in place for this. This is a 7% or 10% of the budget. How much of the budget is this one element that's outstanding?
you know, I'm not sure. The funding is definitely in place for it, and it's starting schematic design. So I'm sorry, I don't know the numbers.
I just want to know that it is going to be delivered as opposed to maybe it'll be delivered.
No, it's definitely part of the job. The funding's in place.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for this. And I know this will be a huge asset to this area of the Bronx. And good luck. We look forward to seeing it at schematic design. Thank you all, Parks Department.
Thanks.
Okay, commissioners. We will now, that concludes our committee meeting. And so we will now begin the public meeting with a vote on the consent agenda. Today we have items numbered 28097 to 28118. Staff has noted my recusal on items 28107 and 28108. Are there any other recusals to note? Seeing no hands, there are no other recusals to note. So I will now call for a vote. Commissioners, when I call your name, if you would please state your vote for the consent agenda. Again, you can approve all or take exception with any project with an abstain or a reject. Phil Ahrens.
Approval.
Ken Seth Armstead.
Approval.
Deborah Martin.
She had to leave.
Okay. Lori Hawkinson.
Approval.
Karen Keel.
Approval.
Is Susan still with us?
She also left.
Okay. Ethel Sheffer.
Sorry, Ethel, you were muted.
Approval.
Thank you. Meryl Tisch.
Yes, 100%.
Thank you. And I will vote for and approve all. So the public meeting has now adjourned. Thank you all. And Carrie, we wish you the very, very best.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners.
Stay in touch.